capital of the world, and that's really all my upbringing was there. I went to the University of Georgia.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
We were talking about that a few minutes ago.
And then I went to, for law school, I went to Georgia State. But my adult life has been in Alpharetta, and that's where I have been raising my family. I've got a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. My wife and
we'll pray for you then.
Please, especially for the 13-year-old daughter. I love her to death.
We'll pray for you, David.
But there is a lot of drama there. My wife and I, we just celebrated 21 years yesterday.
Oh, great.
And I've been, people ask me, well, what do you do? Well, I still have a business, but my political experience for the last 7 years, I've been the mayor of Alpharetta, which has been really one of the best joys I've had professionally.
Now, was that your first political office as mayor of Alpharetta?
I was a councilman in Alpharetta prior to that.
Okay. So, what made you decide to get involved in politics, to be an elected official?
Yeah, it really, it's not the normal path. My wife and I, we settled on Alpharetta as that's where we wanted to bring up our family. But with Alpharetta, in my mind, it was in the middle of Metro Atlanta, and we were really in a danger of having a city and a community without any form of identity. Even though the city had been around 160 years, or it's 160 years now, the idea was that there was really very few people who still lived in Alpharetta who were from Alpharetta, and if you don't have at least a second generation there, you start to lose your identity. And so I ran to essentially reinvent our downtown in Alpharetta, which we have done. It's currently under construction. Some of you may have heard of Avalon. It's now a project that is talked about nationwide. That's kind of like a second downtown for us. But we were able to do that. We were also able to focus on really growing what Alpharetta does best, which is our technology industry. So it's been a tremendous ride as the mayor of Alpharetta.
Okay. Now, David Bell Allen here on the world-famous Butch and Bob Show, right here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup, and he's in a runoff election, Republican ticket for Secretary of State. What made you decide to say, all right, I've done my job here in Alpharetta, we're on the right track, I can turn the reins over to someone else, and decide to run for Secretary of State?
Well, it's two things, and I'll tell you, one is a passion and one is a conviction. And the passion side of things, and I'm going to start a little selfishly here for a moment, if I can.
Okay.
My favorite part of being mayor was picking some dot on the horizon, something that I felt the town needed to travel to head to, not knowing how to get there, and then getting people in the room, both within our organization, within the city, but also outside our organization, and really just charting that course and figuring out how to do it. And that's what allowed us to land a technical college in our city. We were able to launch a technology incubator, which now serves over 50 startup technology companies. We launched a conference center that can host really southeastern technology events for the United States. We were able to grow the number of technology companies in Alpharetta now to over 640 technology companies and over 100,000 jobs. And so what drew me in terms of a passion, in terms of I will just say somewhat of a selfishness, was like, I want to be able to do that for Georgia. I want to be able to figure out, okay, how do we get there? So in Georgia, what we do best in Georgia, it's agriculture, it's technology, and it's logistics. You've got an organization that touches every single business in the state of Georgia, and I think there's an opportunity and an obligation to chart that course. And so that's what gets me excited, to figure out, okay, so how do we grow those industries? And I believe we can pull the right people together to grow those industries and help the entire state of Georgia. The conviction side of that is I believe that the integrity of our state depends on the integrity of our elections. And so that's been our whole campaign.
And that's under the Secretary of State's responsibility of elections, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So a lot of folks want to get back to a paper trail. Are you for that? Are you for, say, all right, the electronics, somebody might have hacked, but at least we got the paper there to prove what exactly happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, when we vote, we have to, by faith, believe that our vote will be recorded just the way we made it. And we think it is, we feel it is, but to be honest with you, you can't have an actual recount. It's all just one electronic record. And you can't do any type of post-election audit. So what I would champion is a system where after you show your photo ID, you'd be given essentially a piece of paper. You would submit it into an electronic machine and you would vote electronically. But when you hit cast ballot, two things happen. One, it makes an electronic record like we do today. Number two, though, it would print out your selections on that piece of paper so you can visually verify that who you voted for is represented on that piece of paper.
Is that paper kept by the election officials?
Yes.
They have to have it, right?
Yes. And
no hanging chads. It's going to be printed on there,
It's going to be printed.
Okay.
And then you would take that piece of paper, you submit it to a second machine, which would scan it, making a second electronic copy, but also storing that physical copy. So each and every vote would have 2 electronic records and 1 paper record. And in that way, you can actually do a recount. You can actually do a post-election audit. And I believe it creates not only better voter security, but also better voter confidence. And I think that's more and more important.
Who will pay for the extra machines to count the paperwork?
Yeah, it's not free. We're currently working off machines from 2002 that's working off software from 2000. It's going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 to $115 million. But I think considering the importance of this with respect to the state of Georgia, that it is a cost within the scope of a $26 billion state budget, I think it's a cost worth having.
Okay, now you say within the state budget, so would counties be responsible for some of that cost, or is it going to be the state that's going to be responsible for it?
I believe the state should be responsible for that.
Okay, well, I know it's good news to our county officials.
Well, yeah, and as a mayor, we have, and most cities have elections in odd years. So it's not only does it affect counties, but it also affects cities.
Yes.
Because it's quite a considerable cost for cities as well.
David Bell here. He's candidate in the runoff election for Republican ticket for the Secretary of State. People say, Secretary of State, what does that office do? We know they overlook the elections, but what else does the office of the Secretary of State do?
Well, and it's very important to know that because, and a lot of people don't know. In fact, my opponent has ads talking about to stop sex trafficking, money laundering, and the opioid crisis. All great issues that deserve our full attention. It's just not something the Secretary of State's office can do. But Secretary of State's office, it is elections. That's the key thing, probably most famous thing, but it's also the most important role of the Secretary of State's office. It also manages our corporations division, so every single business in the state of Georgia, once it registers to do business, it will be managed by the registered agents and that sort of thing. They are managed by the corporations division. Also securities, a lot of people don't think about it much, but there are certainly federal securities laws in terms of investments, those type of things. There's also state securities laws, and so the Secretary of State's office enforces those securities laws. But probably the after elections, in terms of most known, it would be the professional licensing or the occupational licensing board. So there are 41 licensing boards, well over 100 licenses managed by the Secretary of State's office. And so each one of those boards is administered by the Secretary of State's office. And one of the things that can be done there is really trying to find ways to connect people to meaningful work. Sometimes it's difficult to navigate your way through that licensing process. In many cases, the hours required for certain licenses are too high. And we need to be able to look at from top to bottom what those licenses are requiring, what licenses are needed and which ones aren't, and be able to give and render an opinion so that we can connect Georgians to meaningful work.
As we mentioned that you're in a runoff election, Republican ticket, who will y'all be replacing?
Well, Brian Kemp, as many know, is running for governor, so he will no longer be the Secretary of State's office, so this is an open seat.
Okay, well, I figured that's one reason why people are running against him. Usually you don't run against an incumbent in the same party. Sometimes it happens, but it is an open seat with Brian Kemp running in the runoff election against Casey Cagle for governor.
And I'll point out that I believe Brian Kemp and Karen Handel, who's now my congressman before him, they've done a great job. They've made a lot of progress in making our elections more secure. They've stood up in the face of lots of litigation from very left-leaning groups that would like to figure out how to undermine a lot of our security and our vote process. So I think they've done a great job. That being said, I do think there's an opportunity to continue and to build on what has been done. We talked about the voting machines. One of the biggest opportunities, I believe, not just in Georgia, but across the country, when it comes to voter fraud, the absentee ballot is the widest and the biggest door that is open in election fraud. And one of the things I want to do, and this actually differentiates me from my opponent as well, I want to bring a photo ID requirement to the absentee ballot. Because right now, when you go vote, whether you go vote early or if you go vote on Election Day, that's what I like to do, you have to show a photo ID. But for the absentee ballot, you don't need a photo ID. You don't need a witness. You don't need a notary. You don't need an excuse. All you need is somebody's stamp and somebody's address.
Okay. Well, that sounds really good. I know to a lot of folks out there for that. Right now, it's 3 weeks before the election that folks can vote early. You know, Bob and I talk about this ever so often during the time leading up to it. That's quite a bit of an expense for small counties and throughout the state that just don't have that big of a budget. The first week of election of the 3 weeks is kind of slow. You know how people are; they put things off to the last minute, and also a lot of folks don't make up their mind sometimes until maybe just a few days before the election. And right now, it's 2 Saturdays before the election, on the Saturday voting. Bob and I have come up with a plan that is
all right.
We've come up with a plan that to reduce it from 3 weeks to 2 weeks, and that does not take away from anybody's right to vote in any type of way. It does not hurt anybody any type of way. But 2 weeks before the election, instead of 3, to help with cost. Okay, and then move the Saturday election. Where people can go vote on Saturday, right to the Saturday before the election, because when you do it almost 2 weeks in advance, it could be a person hasn't made their mind up yet, and they might not go on that Saturday. How many folks did we have vote this past Saturday? It was like 11?
7 or 11.
Yeah, somewhere along in there.
Well, Butch, I'll point out that early voting, the 3-week early voting process was billed as one of the stated goals was to actually increase voter turnout.
Mm-hmm.
So far, it hasn't actually increased voter turnout. No. It has made it more convenient in many cases, but also more expensive, especially for counties, and I'll have to keep putting my city hat on, also for cities. I don't believe that we need 3 weeks of early voting. 2 weeks is better than 3. To be honest with you, I wouldn't mind seeing 1 week with a Saturday thrown in there. What has happened, what you see happening, is that everyone, the first 2 days of early voting are usually pretty, active, and the last 2 days of early voting are pretty active, and turnout has not increased.
We've seen that here in Wayne County. The percentage of folks that have vote is not any higher than it used to be when you could just vote on election day.
Right.
But to cut cost, make it, use a little more common sense and use that Saturday before the election, because a lot of people are still looking at the candidates up to that point, And so I know that's all going to fall under the office of the Secretary of State. So Bob and I are just throwing in our ideas, okay?
All right, awesome. I appreciate it.
Bob, questions or comments for David Bellal?
It's not just early voting, it's the whole process. People aren't voting at all. Less than 25% of the people showed up in Wayne County to vote, registered voters. Statewide was the same way. So what do you do to get people energized? You think with the governor's race, people would be energized, but apparently not.
Yeah, and I'm no political scientist, so I don't know, what changes the trend in terms of getting more people to participate and get engaged and get involved. My gut says that starts really at the child rearing side, at the educational side at a young age, really instilling those values early. Our job at the Secretary of State's office is not to increase voter turnout necessarily, but just to make sure that the votes are secure and that it's easy to vote. But I think that's really a cultural thing that we need to kind of face up to as a state. It's like, hey, we all believe. Anyone you talk to who votes, we all say, hey, not enough people are voting. Not enough people are taking the time to be civic minded and actually invest in learning about candidates. But by the time we figure that out, by the time we're talking about that, we're over 40.
Paper trail was, we talked about that too. You go buy a pack of gum, you get a receipt, but you go vote, you get nothing. So, say you hope it's accurate, but you have no proof.
And I want to point that out, because sometimes people say, because I obviously, as I mentioned, very in favor of a paper trail as part of that, having that paper record. I do believe it's important that the Secretary of State's office hold on to that paper. And at first you think, well, why? I get a receipt for, whatever I buy. The problem is that we're all thinking about it from a very white hat scenario that, of course, you wouldn't do anything nefarious with that receipt, but that receipt would actually serve as an opportunity for someone to purchase votes. If you can prove to someone else other than yourself who you voted for,
right.
Suddenly there is a monetary value for that. And so we do have to, in continuing to keep our elections secure and integrity in the process, while it is important to have that from the ability to do a recount, the ability to do a post-election audit, the ability to create and improve voter confidence, we do not need to create a scenario where there is an actual market or sales price for a vote.
Do you really think that that elections have been influenced or changed by hackers?
I think there certainly have been, in the management of elections, it has been influential. In other words, we're all concerned about it. And the voter confidence side, I mean, how many television shows have you seen? Maybe I watch too much television, but where one of the plot lines is that some election has been hacked, some election has been changed. And that's growing in people's minds. And so, yes, it has had an impact, especially in the area of voter confidence. I am not aware of a large hacking episode or event in which an outcome has been changed. I've not heard of that. Maybe someone can enlighten me on that. That being said, it is a real scenario that is possible, and it is a real scenario that is playing in the minds of voter confidence. And voter confidence, while maybe not quite as important as voter security, it is right under it and very important.
Okay, candidate for Secretary of State, David Bell on here, in the Republican ticket in a runoff election. Glad to see that you're in favor of the paper trail, along with still with electronics, of the voting, because I think here, Bob, I think what you say here, they count the votes and they electronically send it up to Atlanta. Is that correct? When you're in there watching them count down there at the court, the county offices, and so it's electronic. I always say something: if you don't want something hacked, don't put it online, because it will be eventually one day.
Well, I will say, too, and to the hacking situation, I believe one of the things that the system that I described does have an advantage on, I told you it creates 2 electronic records.
Right.
I would store each of those electronic records on 2 separate closed circuit, in other words, not accessible to the outside world through internet or any other means, closed circuit, cyber-secured databases. So in that way, even if somebody breached one, they'd have to breach the other, which is an entirely different format to actually have any success. And then we'd still have the paper.
Still have the paper, right.
That's right.
Now, David Bell out here. Now, David, you're going to leave here and go down to one of our traditional famous institutions here in Wayne County that's known wide and far. It's called the Liars Club.
All right.
And you're going down to Jones Drug with.
Do you think the Liars Club would allow politicians or no?
They do. They enjoy politicians and candidates to come on down there. Like I said, they are brutally honest down there. They're all up there. Most of them are way up there. I won't say way up there in age, but most of them are retired. They range anywhere from probably the upper 50s up into the 80s. So I think we may even have one there or two that are 90. So you'll enjoy going down there and talking to the guys down there because they've seen a lot of life, and they've got a lot of good advice.
You'll get real harder down there than you did here, son.
Awesome. Fantastic.
All right, any other, okay, David, I mentioned to you out front there that one of the last questions that we usually ask the candidate is, why should folks, when they go to the ballot and vote, why should they vote for David Bell, Secretary of State, in this runoff election on the Republican ticket?
Well, I'll say, the overarching reason is, and this is when it comes down to this runoff, what Republicans need to be asking is, who is the best candidate to beat John Barrow? Now, John Barrow is a former congressman out of Athens and Augusta. He's got some very radical views as to same-day voter registration, as to actually taking away the process of our state and federal district decisions, taking them out of the hands of the elected, where we have recourse, putting them into the hands of the appointed. I really think there's some significant issues that come up when you allow someone like that to be our next Secretary of State. So from Republicans, it's like, well, who's the best one to beat John Barrow? And for that, I believe that our message of defeating voter fraud, of championing Georgia jobs by creating a better Georgia for every Georgian everywhere through growing what we do best, that's a message that's not just stuck on one side of the coin of elections, but it's also something that actually can improve the life and the experience for all Georgians. And that's what it's going to take. We need, as Georgia is determining whether it's going to be purple or blue, and we hope it stays conservative, but as we need to have a broader platform, and that broader platform is really helping more than just Metro Atlanta, but helping the entire state of Georgia. So David Bell Isle would love to earn your vote. just this July 24th.
Okay, Republican candidate for Secretary of State. David, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come to Jesup, Georgia, and so folks can meet you. And I know you're going to be here in Jesup for the day. You're going to Baxley, and you're making your tour down through here, through southeast Georgia, so folks can see you, meet you, hear your views on the issues concerning our state. And we're glad that you're doing that, because sometimes we feel neglected down here in South Georgia because we're not in the Atlanta area. And we appreciate when candidates from the Atlanta area come down here and say, hey, here's who I am. Ask me questions.
Well, I have to point out I did not grow up in the Atlanta area, but I live there now.
Yeah.
I grew up in Gainesville. But absolutely, it's good to be here, and this won't be the last time.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming.
Butch, Bob, thank you.
All right. We'll be back more of the world-famous Butch and Bob Show. We got the baseball coach coming on in a moment. Stay tuned.
This is Andrew Trier here at Mike Burke's Ford. We have the car, truck, or SUV to meet all your needs. We have new vehicles marked down to rock-bottom prices, so if that don't make you holler, our top dollar on your trade will. As always, stop the search. Call Mike Burke or visit MikeBurke'sFord.com. This is Andrew Trier here at Mike Burke's Ford. We have the car, truck, or SUV to meet all your needs. We have new vehicles marked down to rock-bottom prices, so if that don't make you holler, our top dollar on your trade will. As always, stop the search. Call Mike Burke or visit MikeBurke'sFord.com.
Jesup Premium Storage, 1455 South 1st Street is Jesup's best place to store your valuables. Whether it's furniture between moves or just a place for the overload, call Jesup Premium Storage at 530-8003. That's 530-8003. Jesup Premium Storage units are indoors, climate controlled, and they have 24-hour surveillance and on-site management. You have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week access to your unit. Sizes range from 5x5 to 10x25. They also have outside covered and uncovered spaces available for vehicles, boats, trailers, and RVs. Jesup Premium Storage on the Waycross Highway in Jesup. Since 1946, Murphy's Builder Supply has been serving the folks of Jesup, Wayne, and surrounding counties with quality products and knowledgeable service. Matter of fact, they feel they sell service first to make sure you get exactly what you need for your home improvement projects. And with each employee at Murphy's being there for 10 years or more, you know you're talking with someone with the experience to help you with building supplies, tools, paint, and all the things you need from a full-service hardware store. The best choice in home improvement is Murphy's Builder Supply, 156 Northeast Broad Street, Jesup.
All right, 25 minutes after 8 o'clock, Big Dog Country Radio, WIFO, 105.5 FM in Jesup. And Bob, we have another special guest here on the show.
And Coach Justin McDonald's in summer baseball programs in full swing, but they've got a couple of baseball camps coming up that he wanted to let everybody know about. So, Coach, the show's yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have our 3-day camp coming up next week. It begins Monday morning at 9:30. It'll run 9:30 to 12:30, and it's 3 days, so it's Monday through Wednesday. The cost is $80. It's from ages 5 and up, so we're probably close to, 40, 50 already signed up, so it's going to be a big day, or a big week for us. And I'm at the point now, I've been here 10 years, so a lot of the kids that we have in our program now and guys that have gone on and played at the collegiate level have come through this camp at some point in my career here. So it's always exciting when you get to see the future of Wayne County baseball together at one time. And the biggest thing for those kids is to take something they learn, but also have fun that week. And again, they can sign up one of two ways. We have a email set up for our baseball camp. It's WayneBaseballCamps@gmail.com, or they can directly get in contact with me with my cell number and that type stuff. So, again, this week it's Monday through Wednesday. Then Thursday we'll have a 1-day pitching camp. So that'll be solely pitching and catching on Thursday. Monday through Wednesday we'll work on every fundamental of the game.
You'll have players from the high school team out there along with your coaching staff. The kids enjoy that. So just tell a parent what all the kid will get, what all they'll learn.
We'll begin with the throwing and catching. At our level, at the high school level, that seems to be one of the things when you struggle in games, you look back and there was some point in that game where something bad happened defensively when we didn't throw and catch. So we'll spend a lot of time on throwing and catching, and then we'll move into some fundamental drills of outfield play, infield play. We spend a lot of time on base running. I think that's one thing at the young age that kind of gets avoided. It gets avoided at the high school level when you put it at the bottom of the practice schedule and you look up and it says it's 6 o'clock and you say, well, we won't do base running today. So that's why we start doing that at the beginning of practice, because it's very important. You got to be able to run bases, score runs. So we'll do that, and then we'll get in there and do some hitting drills and talk about some philosophy of hitting, and it's more with the older guys talking about philosophy. Younger guys get in there and let them get swings in, and then of course we always end the camp with home run derby and games and competitions based on your age group to try to get them to compete a little bit, and they always enjoy that, and then we'll hand out some awards to the winners on the last day.
So like I said, it's been a good camp. It's been going on for several years. It's always well attended, so hopefully the word's gotten out. So again, if parents out there that want to sign their kid up, the age group, and how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, the age group is 5 and up, and they can email me at WayneBaseballCamps@gmail.com, or they can directly call me or shoot me a text at 229-424-2825. So, and the cost for the 3-day camp is $80, and then the cost for the pitching camp is $40. And I'll say this: we also in July we're going to do a 2-day hitting camp, which is solely based on hitting. They wouldn't even need to bring a glove that day. That will be hitting for 2 straight days, and it's 9:30 to 12:32. And when they come sign up, if they're going to do all 3, there's a discount rate. We will take, I think it's $20 off the total amount of the what the 3 camps cost. So, but we'll keep that in line, and they'll get that discount on the hitting camp in July.
And this camp next week, they get a T-shirt as well.
Yeah, a T-shirt is involved in it, and a chance to get awards and that kind of stuff. And again, I think the big part for our kids is being able to hang out with former players and players that they get to sit up in the stands and watch play. And I think our kids take it for granted of what kind of influence they have on kids in our community and how those kids look up to them on a daily basis.
It's been a good season in high school. Again, made second round state playoffs. You got several kids going to college. Ford's going to Mercer. You got JT Crosby going to Cooper, and Jasper Beverly just signed with East Georgia. Anybody else about to sign? Or
we got a few. We got Cade Lambert has some options. Savannah State's kind of getting in the mix with him a little bit. So I think by the end of June we'll have 2 more signed. I think Brad will possibly find somewhere to go, and he's very good defensively and can run. So there's a place for those guys to play, and that's great when you get 5 out of your senior class to go play at the next level. And we take pride in that, the coaching staff, and it's a constant work to do and getting on the phone and trying to find those guys some places. But those are the next 2 that they'll find somewhere by the end of June. They just have to be patient and get the right fit.
You got a lot of kids, from years past playing college ball now. Mason's playing college ball.
Yeah.
Got Zach Maynard playing college. A lot of kids are playing collegiate baseball, so that's a good thing. Saw your brother just got a big job, so will he be recruiting Wayne County kids from here on out?
Yeah, he will. I think he's already started. He's already got him a list together. But again, I know that's mine and Coach Mullis' alma mater, and of course he played there too.
And which college is that?
Georgia Southwestern State University,
okay.
America's.
All right.
It's a Division II school, NCAA. So I think he's going to do great things. I know. Me being around him, I pick his brain, he picks my brain. I probably learn more from him than he does from me, just the way he handles his business. And I don't think there's a more harder working person in the game. And I know if you want to follow that program and what it's going to do in the future, you'll be impressed. So.
All right, we got baseball coach McDonald in this morning talking about the all kinds of baseball stuff, but really the big thing you're promoting this morning is your baseball camp next week. Once again, give the details on that, the ages, the times, the cost, what's going to happen, that kind of stuff.
All right, it's Monday, June 18th through Wednesday, June the 20th at the ages 5 and up. It begins at 9:30. It'll end at 12:30 each day. On the first day on Monday, registration will begin at 9 o'clock, and it's $80 cash or check. That includes a T-shirt, ages 5 and up, like I said, and they'll go through every aspect of baseball that you can imagine. We'll cover everything, not so much pitching and catching, because on that Thursday we'll have a pitching and catching camp on Thursday, and again, it's ages 7 and up for the pitching and catching, and the cost for that is $40. But they can
6 and up for everything else, catching and pitching. Catching and pitching is 7, right?
Yeah, 5 and up for the regular, 7 and up for the catching and pitching.
Okay. And somebody wants to know, is the Overholt boy going somewhere to play football? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
Just going to play He's just going to be a collegiate student.
Okay, just a student. All right.
He's not playing ball.
All right. Well, Coach, thanks for coming in.
Well, I appreciate
Anyone
you.
who can help the baseball program, you just let us know.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. All right, the world-famous Butch and Bob Show brought to you by Jesup Premium Storage out here on the Waycross Highway, by Mike Birch Ford in Blackshear, and Murphy Builder Supply located on Northeast Broad Street in downtown Jesup. The time now is 8:33, Friday morning, 15th day of June, Big Dog Country. Coming up soon, we'll give away four free tickets to Wild Adventures, so get ready for that. But right now, let's check on the latest news from Fox News Radio.
A total disaster for Comey. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. President Trump tweeted that about the Inspector General report that it concluded Comey, the former FBI director, was insubordinate in his handling of the Hillary Clinton investigation. The president adding, he did a great service to the people, firing Comey. The report also says anti-Trump sentiment put a cloud over the probe. Fox's Tanya J. Powers has more reaction live.
While that 500-page report is critical of Comey, it found no evidence of political bias toward either candidate. On Fox and Friends, President Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, said the report was just one more reason to end the Russia probe.
I mean, the IG report basically tells you that both prongs of the Mueller investigation are either corrupt or answered.
The report also outlined that anti-Trump sentiment, those texts between an FBI agent and a colleague. It said cast a cloud over that investigation into Clinton's emails, but that they didn't affect the investigation itself. Dave.
Tony, the U.S. has taken out a terror leader in a drone strike yesterday. The Afghan defense minister reports Pakistan's Taliban chief Mullah Fazlullah was killed, though he's been reported dead several times before. He's infamous for ordering the assassination attempt on Malala Yousafzai, the teenage girl who later won a Nobel Prize for her push for female education. Shots fired at a parking lot in Westminster, Colorado last night left a boy dead, his mother and brother in critical condition.
He was running back, and I called him. I said, come here, come here, come here. And he said, I want to go over there. My mom just got shot.
A fourth person was wounded. Police say the suspected gunman is in custody. A nightmare of a roller coaster ride at Daytona Beach, Florida's boardwalk. It derailed last night.
We heard a loud crash and looked over, and the car was just facing down, and we just heard everybody screaming.
Two of the riders fell 34 feet to the ground. They and four others were hospitalized. We don't know how badly they're injured. This is Fox News. Fair and balanced.
Good morning. It's 8:35. Big Dog Country Radio, WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup, your Fox News radio station here for Southeast Georgia. Well, coming up soon, we'll give away those 4 free passes to Wild Adventures. Kelly Pickler in concert tomorrow at Wild Adventures. And one of those passes, you'll be able to enjoy the park, Wild Adventures Park, Splash Island, and get to see the concert with Kelly Pickler. And we'll give away a family 4-pack of tickets coming up in just a few moments here on 105.5 FM, WIFO. Time now is 8:35. Up next, your weather forecast for Wayne and surrounding counties.
There's a celebration going on at Walker Jones Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and you're invited to save big. Lease the 2018 Jeep Compass Latitude for only $99 a month. $99! Or choose a 2019 Jeep Cherokee Limited for just $279 a month. Or pick up the 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee, 3 years, 36,000 miles, and pay just $339 a month. Rather buy? Get up to $6,000 in savings on the 2018 Jeep Renegade, or score up to $62.50 in savings on a new 2019 Jeep Cherokee. It's a celebration, and you get all the presents at Walker Jones Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Memorial Drive in Waycross, and online at walkerjones.com. And 6 through the 18, some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Get the best deal from Walker Jones.
Seasons change. Quality of service doesn't. For